Hi, and welcome to Season 3, Episode 12 of the SteamLUG Cast. We're recording on the 26th of June, 2015. I'm Tele, and with me is Hero.
Hello there.
So, Hero, what have you been playing lately?
I've been playing a lot of 7 Days to Die in the last fortnight, together with a few other members of SteamLUG. Never tried it before. Picked it up during well, somebody bought it for me during the sale, thanks no matter. As well as messed around a little bit in your server, in Series Sam 3. And occasionally messed around with Counter-Strike Global Offensive. We were playing a lot of bot games and some people joined us. That was pretty fun. How about you?
I've been attending the twice a week Guns of Icarus practice. Beans and I were dialing in the new Serious Sam 3 server setup. We had some No More Room in Hell earlier in the week, and I've been tinkering with the Dota 2 Reborn client. Just spectating in custom games, though.
Yeah, we actually played a custom game together. That was pretty cool as well.
Yeah, you invented your own tactic, and then I took advantage of it. That was excellent.
Yes, the hero strategy. So, the summer sale just passed, or the monster sale, I believe they called it. Any interesting games you picked up?
I just picked up a single game, Arkham Origins, for $5, and I have an intent of playing it at some point eventually once I get through the other games while using wine. The preliminary test indicated that it runs better than Arkham City in wine, which is excellent. It's fairly playable.
Cool. The first thing I bought was Running with Rifles for a friend. Then a few other smaller games, as well as The Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, which I've been playing with the OpenMW client, and that has been really awesome. So, open source client, works fairly well on Linux, and has widescreen support, a bunch of other stuff. It's not perfect, but it's really nice playing through with that. So moving on to past events, there was a Borderlands the Pre-Sequel event that I was in for a little bit with Bean and Yanni. I haven't played the game very much, but it seems like they made a lot of improvements over Borderlands 2, and so that's pretty fun. Have you been at any of the events, Tilly?
I unfortunately do not have the pre-sequel.
Were you at any of the other SteamLUG community events?
I was at the No More Room in Hell event, and we had a fair turnout. It was quite amusing that Bean decided to kill himself in cinematic and gratuitous ways as quickly as he could. Help drive storyline.
It's always good when there's an open interpretation for the story, huh?
Yes, survival is not always the best way, apparently.
As for upcoming events, after the cast, we'll be playing some Serious Sam 3 in the previously mentioned new servers. Want to talk about that, Tilly?
I decided to create a seriously casual flavored experience where it's infinite respawns and gratuitously high health on the enemies. So it should be comically
Deadly.
difficult, lethal, death is mandatory kind of thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of craziness going on when we were testing that, when you were first setting it up. So everyone is free to join us after the cast. Elsewhere in the community, Cheese wrote an article on requesting a refund in Steam. So he purchased a 4-pack of a game, played long enough to get a card drop from it, then requested a refund, got it a few days later, then bought it back, and everything worked out well. You can read the article to see a little bit more about how that process works.
Valve ended up getting over 1 million concurrent users at the same time during the sale.
Over 10 million? That was a 10 million user peak, which is a record for them. So, summer sale, raking in new users. To me, it's a little interesting that the Linux percentage continues to stay around 1% in all their surveys, and the total users is constantly growing. So, guess that means Linux users are growing, right? But a lot of people are upset that the percentage of Linux users isn't rising either.
Yeah, to me, as long as we're holding our ground, then we still have an increase in total number of users.
Right.
Which means it's heading in the same direction. It's a good thing.
As for other Steam and Valve news, the drop rate for trading cards has changed. Before your first card will be dropped, you have to have played for 2 hours, and that's related to the refunds. You can't request a refund if you have more than 2 hours of playtime, so they just don't want people buying the game, getting one card, then selling it, and then returning the game, or getting a refund for the game. And this was confirmed by Corbin within our community.
Also, during the last fortnight, the Dota 2 Reborn client has come out, which is running Source 2. I was able to tinker with it for a fair amount. It runs significantly smoother than the previous client, the regular Dota 2 client, particularly for us, since it seems like it's compiling shaders on a separate thread for the main engine, so it doesn't block like Source 1 does.
It's also entirely native OpenGL, so they're no longer using the 2GL wrapper in this version of Source, in Source 2.
Which is excellent.
Yeah.
It comes with the penalty that it needs OpenGL 3.1 and it uses 3.3 normally, which alienates a couple users. You can't use it on all the hardware that the Source 1 engine will run on.
They also are not supporting 32-bit with this.
Thank goodness.
So that's pretty exciting. It's still a work in progress. Occasionally you may run into bugs if you try it out yourself, but they've also fixed a lot of bugs since they initially released it. And this is, anyone can opt into it by just downloading the DLC for the main Dota 2 client. And the reworked interface is really nice. Just a huge improvement and a sign of what's to come with future Source games. So, the hardware page on the Steam store shows 90% of the pre-order stock is sold now.
Looks like they're going to get it all lined up before it actually goes out the door.
Oh, actually, it's now gone to only 7% remaining. So if you check the link, probably anybody that watches this in the recording won't have time to see it. But anybody watching live or listening live can see the link and see the exact percentage updated right there. So if you happen to want a Steam controller or a Steam Link, now is the time. Or else you have to wait for a few months. Not like you'd get it now anyway.
And yesterday, Valve released their next version of SteamOS, which is based on Debian 8.1. And it's become clear that they're using Dota 2 characters as their naming scheme. So we expect some Dota 2 character that begins with the letter C to be the next release name.
So this one is SteamOS Brewmaster. And as the new Debian base, it also comes with systemd and a updated kernel. They've called out to users asking that if anybody finds hardware regressions, they report that immediately. But right now when they launched it, there were no known bugs. Everything should just work. Anything that is a regression is unintentional. And it should have a faster startup as well.
This sets a pretty good trend for a new release every 2 years to correspond with Debian.
Yeah, it doesn't impact gaming that much, as the Steam runtime should take care of most of that, but it's still nice to have.
They were primarily interested in the fixes that end up in the Linux kernel
Right.
for new hardware enablement. And to go along with the new Dota client, they've gone ahead and made a separate GitHub repo. It is surprisingly civilized. People are not being trolly. Holy cow. They're helping the developers in a systematic and friendly manner.
Yeah, you were saying the other day it seemed like there were not as many duplicates as they usually have in their bug reports.
Also, the SteamOS kernel got updated so that we have same day access to the new kernel release.
Hooray.
with their patches that they apply.
So moving on to tech news, CryEngine 3.8.1 has added support for OpenGL, Linux, and Oculus Rift.
Did we find out if it's Oculus Rift everywhere or just Oculus Rift on Windows?
That's a good point. Considering Oculus Rift doesn't have support for Linux officially, and less developers have been supporting it on Linux. It's not clear in their announcement, so I guess that would be something somebody would just have to try out and report back. Now, this is only for the client, for the game clients, not for the editor, which was something that we already knew would be happening. They, for now, did not intend on releasing a Linux version of the editor. But it's pretty exciting. There's a lot of games that have been waiting for Crytek to update the engine, including Star Citizen. So moving on to general gaming news. Ark Survival Evolved was originally supposed to be released for Mac and Linux on June 25th, but that was just pushed back the other day to June 30th. So they said they just wanted to get the client in better condition, higher quality, better frame rate, whatever the case, before releasing it for Linux and Mac. And it was not as they wanted it to be, but it's close enough where they can say it should be released on the 30th. So that's exciting for anybody that's been waiting for that. So Slightly Mad Studios, the developer of Project Cars, has announced Project Cars 2 with SteamOS support, which seems a little odd, especially to us Linux users, as we don't even have the first game yet. Now, the first game, they said would be coming later this year. The second game, the reason why they announced it so quickly after releasing the first is because they want to do crowdfunding again. They want everybody to be involved from the very beginning. And it has some substantial improvements, especially related to loose surface tracks, those with dirt and gravel and snow, for example. Anyway, it's interesting to note, but I wouldn't recommend that any Linux users support the crowdfunding for now, as it does not seem likely that they would have a Linux client for the second one during the early access phase, when they don't even have a client yet for the first one. If that changes, we'll be sure to keep everyone updated.
So this is where we try to wrap it up, right? Because
Yep.
it's been a pretty slow week other than the fabulous new Dota client and SteamOS getting an update.
Yeah, the summer sale meant there weren't many new releases.
Is that whole tech war around the summer sale? That was funny. They competed to see who can make the most powerful automated clicker, and it ended up hitting the limit of 100 million.
Yeah, I didn't participate in that.
100 million levels. Yeah, I thought it was a bad idea to jeopardize my account for what was obviously not the intended purpose. I watched E3 coverage, and there was like 2 mentions of Linux in all the footage that I watched. It wasn't really remarkable.
I think there may have been some games that showed a video or had a booth at E3, but there weren't any large announcements that really influenced Linux gaming or had anything to do with us. There were probably a few games. But anyway, I think that brings us to a close. Thanks for listening, everyone.
You can give us feedback at cast@steamlug.org. We're always in the IRC Freenode channel, #SteamLUG.
Reach us on Twitter at SteamLUG, Google Plus at +SteamLUG, or on YouTube. Watch videos of events and listen in to previous casts. Channel name SteamLUG.
Be sure to ask for longer podcasts.
And more hosts. Thanks again, everyone. For those listening live, we're going to jump over and play some Serious Sam. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Do you want me to do the intro?
Would you like to?
Sure!
Alright, go ahead.